Welcome back, Guardians, to part 2 of the Complete Noobs Guide to Destiny. Now, in this video we're going to be going over your weapons, and they make up a pretty big part of the game considering it is a first-person shooter. So while your abilities make up a major part of it also, and they're what makes this game unique, you're also going to need to know about your weapons, what kind of weapons there are, what they're good for, and how to get them. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, the first weapon that you're going to see me using right here is basically the same weapon that you get at the first start of the game, and it is an auto rifle. This type of weapon is pretty self-explanatory. It's a full auto weapon, fires in full auto mode. You pull the trigger, it just keeps firing and doesn't stop. As you can see on screen right here, I'm using it, and I can just hold down the trigger and it will keep on shooting until the magazine runs out and I will have to reload. Now, it is important to note that for all types of weapons, they aren't going to look exactly like what you see on screen. There's so many weapons in Destiny and they all look very different. So while I'm using this auto rifle, there are plenty of different auto rifles that I have and that I could show you. So just in case you find a weapon that's an auto rifle but it doesn't look like this, it still is an auto rifle, it's just not the same. But this weapon does look exactly like what you do get at the start of the game, so that's why I figured I'd use it first. Also, for auto rifles, you can get them with any kind of rate of fire. Some fire extremely quickly and do a little bit of damage with each shot, while others fire less quickly but do tons of damage with each shot. And either way though, you can hold down the trigger and they will fire continuously until the magazine runs out. I am also going to point out that auto rifles are not very great at a long range. Basically just because, you know, there's so much flinch. When you fire the weapon, it recoils a lot, so trying to shoot an enemy from very far away isn't very effective, as you can see on screen right now. Auto rifles are an example of a primary weapon, and another example of primary weapons are pulse rifles. Pulse rifles are like auto rifles, except when you pull the trigger once, they fire 3 times like you can see on screen. And also with pulse rifles, you can again have different rate of fires. Some pulse rifles will fire insanely quickly, emptying out those 3 bursts really quick with less damage, or you can get some pulse rifles that fire those 3 rounds a little bit slower, but in return do a lot more damage. So those are pulse rifles, again 3-round burst weapons that actually do better than auto rifles at range, just because you can control the recoil a little more with those 3-round bursts. So the next primary weapon we're going to be talking about are scout rifles. And scout rifles, basically, they're rifles, but you pull the trigger, they shoot once. And they have incredible range, so you'll be able to hit targets from really far away, and you'll be able to be incredibly consistent. Each bullet also does a lot of damage. So as you can see on screen right now, basically I can stay at a pretty long range and shoot my enemies from far away and keep doing good damage. But with every time I pull the trigger, the weapon only fires once. Another thing I need to talk about now is damage drop-off. Every single weapon in the game has damage drop-off. Basically, once you pull the trigger and fire, the bullet slowly loses damage until it reaches its target. So if I shoot an enemy at point blank, it'll do its normal amount of damage, but if I shoot an enemy really far away, it'll do less damage. That is a reason why scout rifles are great, because they have great range. Meaning that the bullet can go really far before it starts losing damage, and I mean really far. So when you start playing Destiny competitively against other players, you'll be able to hit them with a scout rifle from really far away and still do large amounts of damage. Now, the final primary weapon we're going to talk about is the hand cannon. So you can see right here, it's kind of what you would imagine a pistol like at first. You know, you hold it just with one hand, you can fire it, but it has lots and lots of recoil. You fire it once, and it comes back. It also does tons of damage, a lot more than the other weapons we've seen so far. Only problem is you can't fire it as quickly. So basically, you'll be able to just run up to enemies. Also, it does a lot more damage up close, and not too close, but you can't use it at a long range. If you see me using it at long range right here, it is not effective at all. But when you go up close to enemies, you'll be able to do lots of damage in a quick time period. So that's hand cannons for you, and you know, some do less damage but have less recoil, so you can hit enemies quicker. Others have huge amounts of recoil and leave you reeling after you shoot it, but it does lots of damage when you hit enemies. So those are hand cannons, and of those 4 primary weapons we just talked about, it's personal preference kind of, and it's the situation. You know, if you want range, then you should probably go with a scout rifle. If you really want to run a full auto weapon, auto rifles. And if you want to get up close, do some real damage, hand cannons are your answer. Again, just one more time, all the weapons look totally different in this game. There's bajillions of different primary weapons, so many different types of like hand cannons. Everything looks different, you know? So when you get a hand cannon or a scout rifle or a pulse rifle that looks different than mine, it's nothing to worry about. So all your primary weapons are stored in this little slot right here, the top box in your weapons stash. And the game teaches you how to use your menu and everything. Just know that all those primaries I showed you are going to show up in that box. And then now we're going to be talking about the next box down, your special weapons. Special weapons are totally different from primary weapons. They are very unique weapons. Each different type is very different from all the other types. So of course they're going to be very unique in different situations. Some special weapons are going to perform excellent at certain situations, while others are going to perform terrible at that situation. So it really just reflects your play style. Without further ado, let's start talking about the special weapons in the game. So the first special weapon that we're going to be talking about is a sniper rifle. Sniper rifles, you probably already know what they are, and they're great examples of special weapons just because they are great in some situations and terrible in other situations. Sniper rifles, of course, they zoom in really far. All sniper rifles are different. Some zoom in really far, others don't zoom in as far, but basically they do lots of damage. Thing is, you gotta have precision. So if you can't run up close and use a sniper rifle. You can, and if you hit the enemy, of course it'll do tons of damage. You know, you can do no scopes, but at the same time, that's not what sniper rifles are good for. So really, when you're using a sniper rifle, you're going to be staying back, zooming in. Enemies probably won't be shooting at you because they shouldn't even really be able to see you because you'll be really far away. You zoom in, you take the shot. If you hit them, it does lots of damage. Now the idea right here is precision damage. Headshots do so much more with a sniper rifle, whether it's enemies that are aliens or enemies in player versus player. If you're fighting against other players, a headshot with a sniper rifle will always one-hit kill, whereas a body shot with a sniper rifle will not one-hit kill. So that's the idea with sniper rifles. They do tons of damage, but you're going to need to be very precise at a long range. So zooming in from really far away when other enemies probably aren't shooting at you, and then you're going to take your aim, hopefully hit them in the head, but hitting them will yield massive results. The next kind of special weapon we're going to be talking about are shotguns, and these are pretty much the opposite of sniper rifles, being extremely lethal at point blank, but not doing any damage far away. So, you know, with this playstyle, you'll be running up to enemies, you're going to run up, get close, and it's almost always a one-hit kill when you're close enough. So snipers and shotguns are a very simple, easy concept to grasp, but now we're going to be talking about fusion rifles. Fusion rifles are the next type of special weapon you will be able to use. And basically, they deal massive amounts of damage at a decent range, but they require a charge. As you can see on screen, I have to hold down the trigger to charge up the weapon, then it fires. It fires multiple projectiles that do lots of damage each, and they do it at a decent amount of range. The only thing is you're sacrificing time, having to hold down the trigger and charge the weapon. Fusion rifles are very good options for you, especially when you're playing against aliens that take time to kill you. If you can see them, even if you're at certainly more range than a shotgun, you hold down the trigger, charge it up, fire, dealing massive amounts of damage. Those are fusion rifles, and you can use some pretty advanced tactics with them, such as charging the weapon before you go around the corner, and if you see an enemy, you can point the rifle at them right as it's about to fire and kill them. Again, tons of damage. Or when you're charging the weapon, you know, if you turn that corner and there's not an enemy there, you can just let off the trigger and the charge will go away. So that is the concept of fusion rifles, spending time to charge up the weapon and yielding massive results of damage. The final special weapon you will not have access to at the very start of the game, and you probably won't get it until you're pretty advanced into the game, but I'm just still going to tell you that it is called right now a sidearm. it's what you would think of as just a pistol. Simply a pistol. You can fire it very quickly, and it does lots of damage up close. So when you get up close to enemies, you can just fire that clip very quickly, reload, and keep going. Like I said, it's just like a normal pistol, and it does really good at close quarters. So the final kind of weapon is a heavy weapon. These are weapons that basically just do massive amount of damage in a very short period of time. For example, in player versus player, you will only get one opportunity to bring out your heavy weapon because they are so lethal. So the first example of a heavy weapon I'm going to be using is a rocket launcher, just because they very clearly demonstrate how you can do tons of damage just by pulling the trigger once. As you can see right here, I'm going to go up to a group of enemies, and you pull the trigger, it blasts out a projectile and does area damage. It does lots of damage, enough to kill enemies in one hit. So those are rocket launchers, pretty self-explanatory. The next heavy weapon we're going to be talking about are machine guns. Machine guns are machine guns. You have a huge clip full of rounds that each do tons of damage. So as you can see right there, I just have to pull the trigger, let it rip a ton of bullets out, and I wipe out those enemies super quickly. Again, for machine guns and rocket launchers, huge amounts of damage in very short periods of time. The final type of heavy weapon you will not be able to get until you are really far into the game, but just so you know, there are swords in Destiny. They are heavy weapons, and they're pretty self-explanatory. It's a sword. So maybe you're wondering, why would I use a primary weapon if I can just use my special or use my rocket launcher? And the answer is ammo. Ammo has different drop rates depending on if it's primary, special, or heavy. Primary ammo is white. Little white crates on the ground are primary. Green crates on the ground are a little bit bigger, and you will identify them as special ammo. And then the final type are big purple crates on the ground. That is heavy ammo. And so heavy ammo does not drop often at all. When it does, of course, you'll be able to do massive amounts of damage, but heavy ammo is kind of rare. Special ammo is more rare than primary ammo, but it's certainly not as rare as heavy ammo. So basically, there are some situations where primaries are better than specials, and you won't always have heavy ammo. So that is the deal. If you are just abusing your special, you will run out of ammo. You'll be forced to use your primary weapon, and if you still want to keep using special, then you'll need to go find some special ammo. Ammo can be found by killing enemies. When you kill an enemy, they have a good chance of dropping some primary ammo. They have also a decent chance at dropping special ammo, and they have a rare chance of dropping heavy ammo. So obviously, if you want ammo, go kill some enemies. There are also crates of ammo that can be found not often, but often in situations where you will need ammo. If there's a boss fight coming up, there might be a heavy ammo crate that has the heavy symbol on it. You go up to it, hold the button, and you can take out heavy ammo from that crate. So those are primary, special, and heavy weapons, what they're good for, and how you can use them. We've also talked about the different types of ammo that you can use. Now I'm going to talk about reading your weapon, I guess, looking at its stats, upgrading it, and just kind of customizing it the way that you would want it. So here we have the pulse rifle I was showing you earlier, and when you inspect the weapon in the menu, you can see all of this. You can see stats up there like rate of fire, impact, range, stability, and reload. These are all unique for different guns. So you can look at a weapon and see, oh, like this pulse rifle doesn't have that great impact, but it has great rate of fire, it has good range, it has good stability, and a really quick reload. These are different for all types of guns. You can see that the hand cannon I'm showing you has great impact and great range, not so great stability, and so on and so forth. The little circles at the bottom are perks that you can, as you use the weapon, they will slowly upgrade over time, and you will be able to unlock those perks. You can only select one little circle on each row, but those are things like different sights. On a sniper rifle, you can select different scopes. You can, there are perks like quick draw that allows you to pull out the gun really quick. There are perks that will allow you to have great stability, increase the range for the weapon, whatever it is. Those are all random. So when you can grind, people are saying like, oh, grind for this gun, And not only do you want that gun, but you want a good roll. You might play the game so you can get that gun multiple times, so you can just get some good perks on it. Maybe you want good range on a hand cannon, so you'll keep trying to get a hand cannon that has a little perk that you can select that will increase range. There are perks like rangefinder that give you more range when you're aiming the weapon, rifled barrel that give you more range, things like that. Like I said, you use the weapon to upgrade it over time. Then you can select those little nodes and say, oh, I want this scope on my sniper, I want my sniper to have explosive rounds. You can choose the way you want the weapon, and you can also compare that weapon to others by looking at its impact, range, stability, things like that. That is how you inspect your weapon and compare it to other guns in the game. It is also very important to note that special and heavy weapons both do elemental damage. So primary weapons just do kinetic damage, which is basically normal damage, but special weapons and heavy weapons do elemental special damage, and it's either arc, which is like electricity, solar, which is fire, or void damage. So blue, yellow, or purple. Those are the 3 different damage types, and basically they only matter against aliens that have shields in the game. So as you can see on screen, like I'm battling a captain that has an arc shield, a blue electricity shield, and the only way to take down, or not the only way, but elemental arc weapons will do a lot better against that shield. If I use a solar weapon or a void weapon against that shield, it's not going to do as well. It'll do just as good as a kinetic weapon, but if I use arc damage against an arc shield, it does a lot better and penetrates that shield. So that's just important to note, as you'll see weapons that have kinetic damage, and you'll say, what does that mean? Or if your sniper does solar damage, then you know that it does good against enemies with solar shields. Now, as far as getting these weapons at the beginning of the game, you're going to go visit the gunsmith in the tower, and the game walks you through it pretty well, shows you where he is, and tells you to go get weapons from him. But now you know what the different weapons are and how they're different, so when he gives you choices and says, here's a bunch of special weapons, what do you want, then you know what to pick. And you will continually be visiting the gunsmith as you progress through the game, getting more weapons, and eventually you'll get to the point where just playing missions will get you new weapons that are good enough, and you'll leave the gunsmith behind. Like, at this point in the game for me, I don't even talk to the gunsmith, but for you, the gunsmith is going to be your source of getting your first few guns, so keep that in mind. Now, the final thing that I want to talk to you guys about are the different, I guess, rarity types in a weapon. There are your common weapons. These are the weapons that you'll be getting a ton at first. Those are white. Then at green, you have your uncommon weapons, just with a little green background in the icon. Blue is rare, and when you get your first rare, you know that's a big deal. Then, of course, purple is legendary. Legendaries are pretty much one of the best types. The only thing better than a legendary weapon is an exotic weapon, and exotics have a yellow background on the icon. Exotics are nice because they are unique. There are few exotics in the game, but they have special abilities, I guess, special perks that make them unique from every other gun in the game. So if you have an exotic weapon, there's going to be pretty much no other gun that's like it, just because it has special perks that give you special abilities or whatever. So those are exotics. Here's the catch though. While they are the best in the game, you can only have one exotic weapon and one exotic armor piece equipped at a time. So, you know, if I have an exotic special weapon, I can't have an exotic primary or exotic heavy weapon equipped. I can have it in my inventory, but I cannot equip then. It will not let me. And if I have an exotic, you know, chest piece, I can't equip any other exotic armor piece. I have to use legendaries or whatever kind of type I want to use. So those are exotics. The thing is, you are not going to get your hands on them if you are new to the game. It's going to take you quite a long time. I just want to make sure that you are aware of the different weapon types and all that stuff, so when you see somebody running around with that little yellow weapon in the tower, you know that it's an exotic weapon, and you just have overall knowledge about the weapons in the game, even if you don't have them yet. So that is going to be it for part 2 of the Complete Noobs Guide to Destiny. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful for you guys. Make sure to leave a comment. Am I leaving something out? What could I do better in the next part of the video? Make sure to leave a like if you found this video at all helpful, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. This is Hackman, and I will see you in the next video.